All right, everybody, welcome back to season 2 of Legacy Allies. Super cool to be back. How have you been, Pat?
Good. We had a nice break, which seems crazy to think about because it's not like this is a full-time job or anything.
Yeah, right.
This is really just something we like to do. But, when you, just like anything, when you have a schedule and you're kind of forced to stick to it, or you force yourself, getting a few weeks break is definitely appreciated. So, but
Yeah.
I miss this. I miss getting back. Not that we haven't seen each other or hung out, but
Right.
the process of doing this podcast is a lot of fun. I missed it.
Yeah, we definitely love just even the research and just going through it. But we figured coming back for season 2, we better kick it off with a big one. So obviously, you guys heard right away we're doing JFK today. I'm excited. I don't know about you, but I've wanted to do JFK since like day one.
Yeah, I think it's always been. I mean, we have a board with tons of ideas, and JFK has been part of both of our boards since day one.
Yeah.
It's such a big one to tackle because, I mean, we've talked about this, but this has got to be like the mother of all conspiracies.
It's because you go from, if you look at like modern conspiracy lore, you could say Roswell would be maybe the only, that and like, the Federal Reserve Bank getting
Right.
built would be the only things before this. But this was like the penultimate event, I think, that like shook American citizens' beliefs in their government.
Absolutely.
You ask people even today, or anywhere from 2 years after JFK was assassinated till now, it's like 3/4
Yeah.
of people still say that they don't believe the story that was told.
Yeah, and it doesn't, the case of the official narrative versus, what people think. It's not helped that there's still files that haven't been released.
Yeah, well, I think that feeds into it too.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
fact that they haven't released everything, like, well, it's fucking it was in the 60s, man. Like, it was in 1963. You can't release everything now. Everybody's dead.
Right. Well, and
Like-
there's, what would be the reasoning? That's what if you could sit and have a conversation with whomever is actually in charge or a decision maker, I'd like to hear what the reason is, because it can't be, like, morally, it can't be an acceptable reason of why they can't release it.
I don't have one. You can't even claim national security
Right.
like this, but there's no universe where that makes any sense now. This maybe that decade or for a couple of years or whatever, but not now. Like,
I was gonna say, do you think like heads of other governments like know the truth behind stuff and they're just like shaking their heads at us?
that's a good question.
I've never thought really of it, but
What do you mean by heads of government? Are you talking about their
Like,
intel agencies?
yeah,
or
yeah. Like,
presidents?
do you think Russia, Israel? Do you think that these people, countries that have big intel agencies that are like famous? Do you think
Right.
that they also have all the details?
I'm guessing there's parts within the government that maybe don't know but think they know, or
Sure.
they have evidence. I think if it was like indisputable, they would come out with it just to embarrass the USA. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like that'd be like exactly what they would do.
Or it's used as tit for tat
Right.
for, intelligence bargaining. I can
Right.
see that too, where they do know and they're like, hey, we're going to fucking release this unless you guys don't, talk about whatever Soyuz 1.5 rocket crash happened in the 70s or whatever the fuck,
Yeah.
They bargain for that shit all the
I'm
time.
sure.
Like, they have to. But, I mean,
Crazy.
the thing about JFK, because it was, it's pre-Watergate, which is all probably the next event in line that really fucked up the psyche of the American people, I think. But this thing really sowed the distrust, and it's kind of crazy to me because even still today, there's dozens, at least, theories, and the basic facts don't make sense. I mean, that's the thing that people originally struggled with, is the amount of shots that were taken, what people and witnesses on the ground actually heard, And the forensic evidence, none of it really meshes like well.
Right.
I mean, you can say, oh, and we'll go into it obviously, but you can say, oh, well, the bullet went through the driver and then the chair and then it hit Kennedy and then it like slipped out through his shoulder and then they hit the governor. And it's like,
Have you seen the movie JFK with
yes.
Kevin Costner?
Yeah.
What you're describing is back and to the left, back, the magic bullet
Yeah,
theory.
it just, sure, maybe it's theoretically possible, right?
Mm.
It's very unlikely.
Well, yeah,
Like,
I just don't buy that, and I think most people who have common sense,
yeah.
and then what I think what's infuriating people, this goes with any conspiracy, but especially this one, JFK was like a truly beloved president, so this was for a lot of Americans, and being much simpler times back then, this was initially it probably felt like a shot through the heart and quickly turned into a knife to the back feeling.
Yeah.
So I mean that messes, like you said, that's a shot to your psyche for sure.
Well, JFK was, I think, maybe not historically in line, but he was the heir to the so-called throne of FDR as far as like the people's president. Like everybody fucking loved FDR.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you agree with his politics or not, he was kind of a democratic socialist, but you cannot dispute that he legitimately did things and policies to try to help the American people.
Right.
I mean, he helped get us out of the Great Depression. Again, people argue tit for tat on that too, whether it was his policies or something else, but got us through a world war, got us or helped get us out of the Depression, kept the American people working. He had all these public works things, like was indisputably pro-America.
Right.
I would say JFK was the next one in line. I mean, Eisenhower too, but Eisenhower was such an establishment guy, being a general. Like JFK was kind of an outsider, and he kind of had that vibe to him, like FDR did, where it's like, this guy's looking out for us, not corporate interests.
Right.
Or the CIA.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, and that's the whole I don't remember his comment. He wants to take the CIA and smash it into a million pieces and all that stuff. I mean, that feeds into. I pulled up a list, and you talked about this earlier, just a few minutes ago, of how many conspiracies there are on who did this or who's responsible or whatever. And when you think of our own government doing and him making that statement, and then shortly thereafter, of course, that's going to become one of the theories.
Right.
It's I don't know, super coincidental. I was going to ask you, just kind of, this isn't JFK specific, but when I look through this data, just like I'm sure you do,
mm-hmm.
What do you think? I wonder how quickly, if this were to happen today,
Yeah.
with the same amount of evidence, how the world would react or how the United States would react.
I mean, I think you can look on a smaller scale at Charlie Kirk.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, Charlie Kirk was not a president, a sitting
Right.
president, but universally beloved figure on the right. Even the people on the left that didn't like him or hated him still respected his ability to meet people and talk. Right.
Yeah.
Polarizing guy, but almost everybody was sad when he was assassinated because they're like, well, this guy at least engaged in honest debate, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with his politics, whatever. He was just someone who talked to people.
Mm-hmm.
JFK, similar, right? I mean, obviously was elected president, but again, was totally willing to step across the aisle to get things done, which, I mean, at the time was pretty normal. But even people that hated the guy, I mean, it's not like anybody was thrilled that he was shot. It was terrible. It was shot through the heart of the country, even for conservatives that hated his guts. So
that's a good comparison, actually, because you think of how times change and how fast communication is now compared to back then.
like Charlie Kirk's video getting blasted on social media. It was disgusting, dude. I hated that.
That stuff, like, it horrifies me, honestly. Like, and
do you think, sorry to interrupt you, but do you think that is like, we've talked about like the global cabal before, or like whatever. People have these theories that, oh, there's a rich or elite group running things. I've heard a theory recently that video was part of like a like basically like black magic, like MAGICK magic, right? Like Crowley shit, where they put that out there to kind of cast a spell or
Yeah,
whatever. Do you think that there might be something to that?
absolutely. Yeah.
I see. I don't know how to
Well,
feel about
here,
that,
let me
but
let me rephrase that. I don't know if that one was, but I believe that
okay,
happens a lot.
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
and I kind of agree with that too. The hard part about that is there's nothing to pin down.
Yeah, and there
You
never
know,
is, you
there
know.
won't be. I mean, unless we get the full Epstein files release or
Well,
like
and
actually.
I think a good indicator on, how people feel or respond to a conspiracy theory is when people are asking relatively innocent, simple questions
Right.
and they're receiving pushback or being gaslit.
Yeah.
It only confirms your opinion,
Yeah.
you know? Well, hey, all I'm asking is, a bullet should have this impact on his neck and
Right.
not that. And immediately people are, and don't get me wrong, I have tons of empathy for somebody who just lost their husband,
Of
but
course. Yeah.
if their response is leave the grieving widow alone, to a very valid point, that red lights are going off,
Yeah.
man. That's
That's a huge
crazy.
red flag.
Yeah.
It's kind of almost equivalent to like the non-answer answer that like former intelligence operatives will give when you'll ask them a question like, "Were you or were you not involved in Project MK Ultra or whatever?" And he's like, "I am not allowed to comment on it." It's like, "Well, fuck, okay, you were."
Yeah.
Right? Like
Right.
90 whether that's true or not, 95% of people are going to be like, "Well, that's an answer," right?
Yep.
A non-answer answer, but um totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you finish your point and then I'll move on from there. Sorry.
I forgot what my point. I forgot where I was at.
No, I was just gonna say I know pretty much everybody knows the basic background of JFK, but I think it might be a good idea for me to kind of read through the basic facts of the case and then we can kind of sprout off from there on
Yeah.
the theory. So I do have it kind of like a overlay laid out.
Yeah.
So
Go for it.
all right, so John F. Kennedy was the 35th president of the United States. He was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963, at approximately 12:30 p.m. in Dealey Plaza at Dallas, Texas. While riding in an open-top presidential motorcade with First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, Texas Governor John Connally, and Connally's wife. So, for the shots and wounds, 3 shots were fired, per the official account. Kennedy was struck in the upper back neck, non-fatally, and then fatally in the head. Governor Connally was also wounded. The famous Zapruder film captured the event. The suspect was Lee Harvey Oswald. He was a 24-year-old former U.S. Marine who had defected to the Soviet Union starting in 1959 and was there through 1962. Before returning, he was arrested. He worked at the Texas School Book Depository, from whose sixth floor window the shots were fired. Oswald denied involvement and claimed he was being used as a patsy. Oswald's death. 2 days later, on November 24th, and this is an important point, Oswald was shot and killed on live television by Jack Ruby, a Dallas nightclub owner with mafia/mob connections, while he was in police custody. Ruby was convicted, but died in 1967 before a new trial. The official investigation, the original Warren Commission, was appointed by President Lyndon B. Johnson, concluded in 1964 that Oswald acted alone. It found 3 shots from the depository, supported by ballistics, eyewitnesses, and the single bullet theory, which is like the magic bullet. One bullet caused multiple wounds. No conspiracy was found at that time. Later reviews, such as the House Select Committee on Assassinations, convened in 1979, largely upheld the core findings, though one briefly suggested a probable conspiracy based on disputed acoustic evidence that was later discredited by some people, although it's still kind of supported by others. It's in dispute. Extensive document releases, including batches in 2017 through 2025 under Trump, have provided additional insights into massive Cold War surveillance of Oswald by the CIA, but no direct evidence overturning the lone gunman conclusion. Again, polls consistently show that a majority of Americans, between 65 to 75%, believe there was some level of conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like as I was looking this up, that was a good overview. I appreciate you going through that.
Yeah, I figured it's probably good just for in case nobody's fresh in mind.
That's the tricky part about doing a JFK episode is that's the whole beating the dead horse thing, right? It's been
Right.
talked about, but there's a lot of young people that they may have heard about it, but they've never really heard it to that
Yeah.
level,
Right.
because, well, quite honestly, because a lot of kids today are so used to or immune to the trauma that something like that can cause just an average citizen. So they're just like,
Right.
eh, another person got killed, which
Yeah.
is crazy. But
Well, they're more used to it. I think that is not to get off on a tangent too bad, but I think that's part of why what the intelligence agencies use social media for is they use it to sensitize people to this stuff. So then when major events happen, people don't ask questions, don't dive in like they did back in 1963 because they're used to it and they're
right.
numb to it. So I truly believe that that is one, I mean, fairly, basic level aspect of what other countries and our own intelligence networks use this for is they use it to completely desensitize people to shit like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully embrace that opinion. I tell you what, like as if the events leading up to um I guess the results of the Warren Commission, when you look at everything that took place, Jack Ruby shooting him, whatever, what was it? How much later? 24 hours,
Yeah, it
40
was
hours?
like a day and a half
Yeah.
later, for 24 to 48 hours later. Right.
All that's going to do obviously is bring up questions to people like, why? What does
Right.
this fucking bum care about? You know what I mean?
Right. And then
So,
you dive into like he had major mafia connections, helped fund and found his club that he was, was a nightclub owner in Dallas.
well,
He kind of claimed that he was oh, you're good. You
yeah.
lost your phone thing. He kind of claimed that he was doing it just because he was so mad that the
Mm,
president. I don't buy that for a
no.
second. That's fucking stupid. I I do think that lends some credence to one of the major theories, which is that the mafia was really still angry about. I don't know if you know the background on this, but JFK earlier in his career had launched a campaign to basically try to eradicate the mob.
Yeah.
And he had broken up a bunch of their no bid union contract deals. He
Well,
had
him
broke
and his brother were heavily
they
involved
went
in breaking that up or trying to.
hard at the mob, and they were Irish Catholics, which did not at the time still get along very good with the Italian mafia.
Right.
So, they had a lot of animosity. Just say that, like
Hmm.
they were not on good terms. So, one of the basic theories is that the mafia took their chance to get rid of him, and they wanted a more establishment president in office like Lyndon B. Johnson, who wasn't going to go after them as hard, or so they thought.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that the Ruby thing points towards that. I'm not saying whether that's the theory I believe in, but I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was getting at, when you add all those little things up, the three shots, and I don't remember the time frame, but it's three shots from some old fucking bolt action rifle in you know, a ridiculous time frame, and the magic bullet. You On top of that, just recently, I think you brought it up. It's maybe not a direct tie, but some of the documents that Trump released, they show, at least prior to that day, there are ties to Lee Harvey Oswald with the CIA.
Tons,
Yeah.
tons and tons, like months, if not years, they had been watching him.
You know what's crazy about this one is, typically when there is, some type of conspiracy theory, there are one or two headliners, and this one has so many,
Yeah.
and all of them, like, have some really good evidence.
Yeah, I think it might be an example of what they call nowadays flooding the zone,
Hmm.
where I believe it was orchestrated this way specifically so there was so many plausible but not provable solutions to what actually happened that nobody can ever really dial it down to just
Yeah.
one. And it's a known technique that intelligence agencies use. Um, we'll talk about more about the CIA later, but it's a known technique that they use where they'll flood the zone. They do it with UFOs too. I mean, there's documents that have come out and say they will tap people, even pay people, or partner with people that'll go online on these forums on Reddit or whatever, and they'll give them 30% real crazy shit and 70% completely not true crazy shit.
Yeah.
And they'll spew it all out there, and then when you mix the truth with the lies, you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that that's what's going on here. I think that there's going to be aspects of truth in the stuff we talk about today,
Hmm.
and there's going to be stuff that's completely bullshit. And our job is to try to pick through it and determine what we think, basically. But I don't know if there's any good way anybody could really do that.
Yeah, definitely. If you're tuning into this episode, there's not going to be a result.
Yeah.
Not on a whatever half a century mystery. But yeah, you brought up earlier I don't know if is it Zapruder film?
Zapruder, yep.
Have you seen now? Have you seen the version where, as you're watching it, it looks awfully a lot like the driver turns around and shoots him?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is where things get complicated, I think, a little bit as time goes on. Maybe. But if you were to just watch that, to me, I'm like, oh, damn, that's the shooter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
The
mean,
first time that I watched it with that context in mind, that's exactly what I thought too.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And then so, prior to this, I'm like, I'm gonna look up that, and then so I'm punching some stuff into Grok, prompting it to
Right.
find me this, and Grok's explanation is, oh, it's actually the headrest of the car, and you're like, whatever, you're an agent too,
You're
that's
fucking owned by the
that's
CIA.
bullshit,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I wonder, and so now there's comments like, well, now that we have the technology and we can make the video clearer and less grainy, now it's very clear. Well, yeah, now that you have the technology, you can also manipulate it.
Correct. Yeah.
So, I just, I don't put any stake in that. The technology that we have now makes things clearer. I think it's quite the opposite. It can
Yeah.
be intentionally very misleading.
It's very interesting that you say that because I recently watched, this is totally unrelated from the JFK thing, but I recently watched a documentary on YouTube that was talking about how there's so much lies with this digital clarification of film.
Hmm.
Like when film is shot like manually on an old fashioned film camera, like on 35 mil film, there really isn't any way to make it clearer than it is without using AI or programming magic to basically guess. So really, what it is a guess. The program is guessing what they think should be there in those pixels, but that's not. I mean, it might look clearer to your eyes, but that is not necessarily what's actually there, and that's kind of the issue.
This is like another one of our tangents because I'm gonna keep going with that.
No, go for it. Yeah, I thought it was fascinating, but
That is, and like, because immediately when you say that, I start thinking about the way the human brain works, and it does the exact same thing.
yes,
It
yeah,
fills in blanks of things that it feels like you will comprehend,
right.
or that make most. That's really freaky. When you start thinking of AGI, you're like, wow, it's going to operate very close to the human brain.
Yeah,
That's nuts.
it literally is just guessing. I mean, that's the crazy part about a lot of it is it's taking, AGI is I mean, really when we say I mean AGI, you can argue whether that's happened or not yet. I
Yeah.
don't think it has, but AI in general, generative AI, um it's taking in mountains of information, right? And then it's turning that into numbers and code where it can, use those things to inference what might happen in the future, right? You
Hmm.
feed it a problem, it'll spit you out a solution based on all the shit that it's taken in for a very, layman's terms definition. It's more complicated than that, um but it's not look at how much generative AI is wrong all the fucking time,
Yeah.
constantly. And that's after $2 trillion worth of investment, 10 years, like billions and billions and billions of dollars spent on hardware, and they can't solve the hallucination problem. And
Yeah.
there's tons of researchers that say there's no way to ever solve the hallucination problem. So apply that to like video evidence, right? Even if there's a 5% chance that you run that video through AI and it's completely wrong and it hallucinates something incorrectly, you can't use that in court. I mean, you certainly can't use that to base your whole worldview off of,
Right.
even if it's more likely to be right. So it's the world we're heading into, and it's a very interesting point you bring up that the human mind works the same way because it's the same exact concept. Like AI doesn't have infinite resources, right? It
Right.
has to use inference to reduce all the calculations it has to do. Same thing going on in your brain. If if you calculated all the data your brain is taking in per second, like you would basically short out, just like a computer. Your brain can't handle that level of information, so it blocks some shit out,
Hmm.
uses inference, and tries to patch together a viewpoint of the world that will make sense to you, where you can function.
And that actually that actually gets a little bit scary to think about, because if you think of like in a court of law, when it comes to like evidence, there's, I don't know, there's probably stronger like DNA, but an eyewitness is extremely powerful in court for a court case.
Especially two, if you can
Yeah.
get two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you think about, you know, video analytics and putting in AGI or AI, and it operates the same as our brain, that's going to be, will it carry just as much weight as
Right.
a first person view?
Well,
It's
I know
interesting.
it is interesting. I know on that point in legal circles, they're already talking about a post evidential video time where in the very near future, like almost no video evidence will be able to take in just at face because of how good video editing and
Yeah.
AI have gotten. Where, it used to be 20 years ago, you see a video, generally speaking, it was pretty obvious if the video was altered unless someone was like really, really good with
Right.
CGI, right? Which most people aren't. Now, I can feed a video into fucking Grok, pay Grok $5 or whatever in credits or whatever one of the other models is, and say, hey, add in a flying elephant to this video of me jumping on my skateboard on the half pipe.
Yeah.
And it's gonna do it, and it's gonna, it might take some working. It's not gonna look perfect right away, but any fucking person can do it,
Yeah.
and it's gonna look way better than it did even 2 years ago doing the same thing. And it just keeps improving and improving and improving. When are we going to get to the point where anybody with $100 and access to a computer can take something like the Zapruder film, make it into whatever they want it to be, re-release it as some lost footage thing, and all of a sudden, oh, the JFK thing is solved, right?
Yeah.
Like, or it's crazy. It's
My
crazy to
guess
think about.
is, if it gets to a point where it can make altered video like undetectable,
Yeah.
it would be so it would that they would save that for not peasants like us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would be for people who the controlling half of society would have they'd be the ones that would be able to access us, not us peasants,
Yeah. I we're way off topic, but I
Mhm.
have to ask you this because I had a conversation with somebody at work not too long ago. We're kind of talking about AI, and I posed a question. I said, if they figured it out, right? They hit AGI. Um, they could have basically AI and robots do everything. They don't need us anymore. Do you think they would release that, or do you think the elites and the upper crust would just use that for themselves and basically keep us living in the world we're in? There's, in my opinion, there's no benefit to them giving us that, and every benefit to keeping us stuck exactly where we are.
I guess so. It depends. This will be like some long bullshit answer that seems like not an answer,
Yeah.
but it depends on your worldview as far as what the ruling class has in store for us or what their goal is.
Mm-hmm.
I think for them to have more control, releasing it would be their plan. It will turn
Interesting.
people into way bigger zombies, lazy, fat, skillless. Like you'll have no skills, or not us, but
Sure, sure.
three generations from now, people won't know how to write code. Why would you need to? You can have your chatbot do it, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Um, the less skills you have and the less capable people are, the much easier they are to control. And if you think about this theory, if they say, I know Elon Musk talks about the world of plenty, like everybody it will be like you just can have whatever you want.
Yeah.
um well, I'll tell you what, you look at how many problems that would solve for the homeless, for families who are struggling to make their mortgage payments right now, people who are just completely backwards on credit cards and all that stuff. That
Mm-hmm.
seems like a dream come true. So if their goal is control, that's the sweet spot, I think.
That's an interesting answer. The question would be the give and take then, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you? I mean, maybe that's why they're trying to lower the birth rate too. But how do you dole out shit?
Yeah.
How, like, because there's things you can't make any more of, like land. How do you determine which 18-year-old that just graduated high school gets what plot of land to build their house on, or that AI is going to build their house for them, right?
Yeah.
Um,
In my mind, land is probably wouldn't be a part of the equation. I mean, this probably sounds like, because everybody's heard this whole the World Economic Forum quote.
yeah,
These people will have not, or whatever,
you'll own nothing and be happy.
they'll have nothing or own nothing,
Yeah.
and they'll be happy. I think that's the point is, governments, and maybe not even United States governments, but other governments too, will be buying up all this land, will be permanent renters that don't have to work.
You think people will take that?
Yes.
I don't.
Oh, I no, I think that there will be people who would love that.
For sure. There's always going to be some. I mean,
I,
there's people that are doing that now.
I think here the
Like,
scary part is I think if you gave people 6 months to research and think about it, almost nobody would want it.
right.
But if you do what's happening right now with no one can afford a home and financial crisis, if you put people in that great press for so long and then all of a sudden offer them that, people would run to it.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
I mean, there's a good number of people who are fortunate right now to work in an industry that isn't necessarily controlled by, that won't have a ton of impact to.
Right.
So those people are like, fuck that, no way. I don't want to be, I can't remember if it's like South Park, some cartoon where all these people are in like their space wheelchairs and they're all fat and they do nothing, but they
Yeah.
give me food and,
Right.
hamburgers fly in their face.
Or
and stuff.
Idiocracy.
Yeah,
Perfect
exactly.
example. Yeah. That fucking was way more on the nose than anybody hoped for. But
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I was,
Especially with the Crocs.
dude, I was just we just talked about the Crocs thing. I was at work the other day and we were having a conversation and I can't remember who it was, but, um, how those got added into the movie as like a fucking joke because they just found this company called Crocs that had just launched. Like, these are so fucking ugly. Like,
They started as like prison shoes.
yeah,
Yeah, because like they're rubber and
shower shoes, man.
You don't get athlete's foot and shit.
Right. It's just, it is too perfect, man. Electrolytes. It's what plants crave.
That's right.
But no, I just had to ask that question because it's a really interesting point for me. I don't
Well, yeah, I was
necessarily.
gonna say, what are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are,
So let's kind of repose the question.
yeah.
So if AGI and all this stuff is discovered where people can have basically anything they want, would the ruling class make it available for us or not?
Partly. I think yes, partly. I think they're doing it now. I think they already have far more advanced model. I think all of LLMs are bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the AI people should be concerned with. I think that stuff is locked behind closed doors. It's going to be captured by governments and corporations, and it's never going to be released in its entirety. It'll be intellectual property for them and for our country and for other countries.
Yeah.
LLMs, they will continue spoon feeding out to people, and they may eventually get good enough where you're going to run into, I mean, you're running into it now with people losing their jobs, what have you. If the cost, it's just like solar was 10 years ago. If the costs weren't subsidized, nobody would be able to afford it.
Right.
And that's the problem, because eventually it's not going to be subsidized anymore. So there is going to be a lot of these companies that are going to go bankrupt. And then you're going to have a consolidation with Amazon, Meta, Google, where they're going to be the winners. They're going to buy up all of this distressed property and assets, and they're going to be entrenched as like the big 3 or 4, right? And I believe we're going to keep getting iterative improvements in LLMs and AI and what have you. But I think they're going to
LLM stand for?
large language models.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just feeding a bunch of words into a computer and they, generate responses based on learning is what they call it. But it's really just code. I don't think it benefits anyone in the elite to give us anything very good.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you, there's going to be people that would want that golden cage, right? Where they can, they don't have to work, rent forever, do whatever they want. They can have pretty much anything they want, right? But there's always going to be that 50% of the population that will never accept that. And the things you could do with that AI would be incredibly dangerous for the wealthy. So I have a hard time thinking it'll ever get to that point. I think what's likely going to happen is it's going to change the labor market a lot. A lot of jobs are going to be a lot different. It's going to create some new jobs, and all of the really important good shit is going to be kept by governments, intel agencies, private corporations, and they're going to use it as weapons.
Yeah. Yes. So that's exactly, that's what I was thinking, with my original answer, and I'm not changing it. But
No, I got you.
That I think they would give us all of whatever it takes to keep people numb.
Yeah.
And
I do agree with you. I think that there's going to be some people that are going to take that UBI because they want to, but they're not going to force it on everybody. It's going to be a choice. The people that want to still work are still going to be able to work. Because really, in my opinion, AI, it's going to take some jobs, right? A lot of those people are going to, that lose their jobs and don't want to fucking try to work anymore, they're going to take the UBI. People that keep their jobs, they will be a diminished middle class, right? They're
Yeah.
going to be the ones that still own their home, whatever. They might be struggling more, but those people are going to tread water. And then the rich are going to get exorbitantly more rich.
Yeah. And the thing that's a little bit, we're so far off, but that's okay. The thing that's scary about that, say that what you just described is it's going to happen in the future. Let's just imagine that. I think ultimately it leads to the same conclusion of them having 100% control. And I think there's an argument that you could make that they already have 100% control.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
we
they have for
still,
like 15 years. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they still you still have to go. This could get so deep, but like you still have to go to work. You still have all these obligations,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to because you were born. That makes no sense to me when you like
Right.
break it down. It's like, huh? But um, yeah, I don't know. It's really it's a big topic, man. I mean, we could do like probably 3 or 4 episodes on that.
We always end up talking about it anyway, just because
Yeah.
uh, you know, I guess I will reel it back to JFK here because they're related. This stuff is all related. We
Hmm.
talk about that all the time. But uh, the main driver of AI, like the real AI that's being worked on behind closed doors, was DARPA and the CIA. And it's because they control everything.
Yeah.
Like they control the president, they control both chambers of Congress, the judges, everything. And they're definitely going to be the ones taking the lead on AI. And even back then, and this is what JFK was trying to fight, was this unilateral control that's condensed into one agency, and even within that agency, probably 10 or 15 people. And all these assets they have everywhere that are getting dirt on people. And think about how much AI is going to help with that.
Oh my gosh.
Like ridiculous. You could set somebody up with AI, not even a real honeypot.
That
Like,
leads into another thing we could do an episode on is those flop cameras.
yeah, it's
Oh
crazy.
my gosh.
It's very scary.
Yeah.
But JFK. This is in my opinion. I'll just tell you that everybody my thoughts. This is why he got killed.
Yeah.
He was really trying to push hard against that, and he was one of the only ones that was. And I mean, there's a lot of fucking people that hated John F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
Like the
That's
mafia, his fucking vice president didn't like him and wanted him dead. Like the CIA fucking hated him because they left him out in the cold for the Bay of Pigs.
that bringing that back to a comment you made earlier about the flooding the zone. When you think about it, people get so drawn into, I have to find that golden ticket. We want to know every detail. And the reality is none of that's important. It's why it was done is that's important.
The motive.
Yeah.
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 And well, because the motive tells the story.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
'Cause-
So forget accountability for 1 or 2 people. This is, I mean, this is just it's not a good look for world governments. That's for darn sure.
No. Honestly, I'm not giving it out to the United States government or any other government. I think a lot of times they do some despicable shit, but generally, most people in the government want to do good. Um, Intelligence agencies are
Scary.
scary, man. It's the same thing. There's tons and tons of people that work for the CIA that are good people that are patriots, want to be good Americans, want to protect the country, right? But the ship is getting steered maybe, depending on what administration you're in, by people that don't share that goal.
Right.
And that's the scary thing is we just don't know. There's no control mechanism for the CIA that works.
That's so like that's super frustrating to think about, like
Right.
when you look into these type of things, and again, all these things are tied together, and you start thinking about, well, who runs the CIA, who runs this organization or that organization, and like the more you look at you realize like, holy shit, these people 10, 20 years ago were right. This goes back to families
Yeah.
like
Rich people,
Rothschilds,
yeah.
and you know what I mean. It
Yep.
literally, like, this isn't. Yeah, I don't know if that makes it smaller or bigger, but it makes it that much crazier. That's for
Yeah.
darn sure.
And I mean, you have these meetings every year, right? Like the Bilderberg Group, and
Yeah.
there's, several, where like rich, important people meet up and, decide the fate of the world, basically. Um, and CIA has been represented there for years. I mean, it's when lists have leaked of who's been there, often a high-ranking CIA official is at these meetings,
Yeah.
or a family or a person that's directly connected to the CIA
Well,
has a
was
representative there.
yeah, like yeah, George Bush Sr.
Was the head of the
He
CIA.
was the head of CIA, and what was the connection with him and JFK? There is a very serious connection with him and JFK, right?
I know, I've heard this too. I can't remember the exact link. You could look it up if you want,
Yeah.
but it's well, there's been, I mean, even so, there's Bush Jr., who's vice president, was
Yeah.
Dick Cheney. A lot of people argue that Cheney was the one actually running shit,
Mm-hmm.
and he had, private military companies. There's about half a dozen companies that he owned with oil and gas, PMCs, all that stuff, that all had huge ties to the CIA intelligence. That's really the last, you know, 4 of the last 6 administrations have had direct ties to the CIA through family or friends. It's kind of insane. It's,
Sorry, I'm just typing here. I
no, you're
know
good.
there's a connection. I just don't remember it.
Yeah, I'd actually like you to find it because I know I've heard this before, but I'm drawing a blank on what it was. Cue the elevator music.
I'm just going to read this. I don't know if this is what I had heard or not. The
Okay.
CIA and intelligence memos. Days after JFK's assassination, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover wrote a memo mentioning a briefing on Cuban exile reactions provided to a Mr. George Bush of the CIA. Skeptics and conspiracy theorists point to this as evidence of deep state involvement or an earlier than admitted connection between Bush and the CIA. Um, an FBI special agent in Houston received a tip from a Mr. George H.W. Bush regarding potential anti-Kennedy threats made by a Texas acquaintance. That's one I had heard.
Yeah, that's the one that I heard as
Yeah.
well. Have you heard the link between the JFK assassination and Watergate?
I'm not sure. You have to remind me.
So supposedly, there's been a bunch of people that have come forward in the last few years that talk about the people that radicalized and met with Lee Harvey Oswald when he was making these trips to the Cuban embassy and to Russia when he had like defected. Were like a lot of them were radical Cuban nationalists. There were
Mhm.
people. Was acquainted with people from basically they had fled Cuba and they were pro Bay of Pigs essentially, like and there was a lot of overlap there between those people and the Russians, even though the Russians theoretically would have had like Castro's side. It's very complicated, but a lot of the Cuban nationalists that were part of the group that did actually performed Watergate, like broke in to Watergate and did all the, stole all the information, tapped everything, whatever. Those are the same people that were working with Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh,
Some of
okay.
them were the exact same people,
Well,
not just the same group.
yeah, and then I think I'm correct on hearing this. Man, I'm terrible with names, always have been, but the person who almost got like famous, the reporter, um,
Oh,
Bernstein.
yeah, Carl Bernstein.
Yeah, and then you find out like, well, he was like a military journalist. That's his
Yeah.
journalism. Like
Was
he
he
had
so?
connections too.
Have you read that book,
What?
the Watergate book? Fuck, what
No.
was that? I have. It's Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein.
Yes. Yeah. Woodward and Bernstein.
I
Yeah.
can't remember which one of them was a rookie, and it might have been Bernstein, and I think Woodward may have been the one that was like a military reporter. I think I had those flipped.
Oh, now that you say that, for some reason I think you're backwards on that.
I,
Yeah, look it
I'm
up.
gonna look it up because I
Yeah.
can't remember, but
But
it's
you're
been
right. One of them was like brand new. Like, oh, how the hell did he get put on this? He had no experience, but it was because he had ties to, whatever, the CIA.
yeah. Okay, yep. So you're right. The new reporter was Woodward.
Yeah.
The established reporter was Bernstein.
Yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't remember. It's been like 15 years since I've read All the President's Men, but great book by the way. If you haven't read it, you absolutely should. Um, but yeah, and there's even questions about their work where like people kind of believe that there was an intelligence asset that was anti-Nixon who was potentially Deep Throat.
Oh
Who
yeah,
Deep Throat
yeah,
was the informant, and basically they chose this new reporter to, uh, give this information to because he was unknown. He
yeah.
didn't have any, had no prior experience basically. So there's a whole conspiracy about that too. You could do several episodes on all the president's men, but
We talked about this a little bit earlier, but I would just say for for the dozens of people listening to this, it
not a good
is.
week.
I would seriously, yeah, I would seriously recommend if you haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a while, and this is something I need to take my own advice on, to watch the movie JFK, because it is there's so much information in that. Like that's like watching, you're doom scrolling watching these podcasts to
Yeah,
get in a tangent. It's like watching a couple days worth, and it's a long ass movie.
it's like 3 or 4 hours. I
Yeah,
think it's really long.
but they cover stuff so like very accurately too. It's a really good movie.
That so I'll pose this question for you. We still got a fair bit of time here, but I wanted to get your opinion. What do you think happened with JFK? Obviously, you don't know for sure, but if you had some gun to your head, you had to have an opinion. What's your opinion?
Oh, I'm not even sure that I've 100% decided. Like again, because I think I'm at this point where kind and this is maybe just a stage in my life where I'm like, the specifics don't matter. It's the reason why.
No, I get it. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, and then I'll rephrase. Why? Do you agree with me that it was a control thing, or what's the motive you think? Regardless of who did it,
yeah,
what do you think
yeah.
the
Well,
motive
I
was?
think the motive is probably, trifold. Several reasons. I know he was in favor of breaking up the CIA.
Right.
That's huge. Very recently, he was pushing super hard for Israel's nuclear program to
Oh yeah, he was
get,
directly out against that.
yeah, like, and I mean, that was, I don't know how long he had been hard at that, but I know it was like a hot topic, right?
Yeah, there's a
So,
whole story behind that. Yeah.
yeah, so that's a huge reason why. I mean, he did a lot of stuff that was very anti, I don't know, big money making laundering
Yeah.
type things. I mean, so yeah, I think it was definitely for control.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
a,
simplest answer. I don't know that I don't know. I don't know. If you were to ask the question of the specifics, this is where things get complicated. Do you think Lee Harvey Oswald pulled any trigger?
I do
Yeah.
personally. Yeah. I actually think that Lee Harvey Oswald may have shot the president.
Yeah.
I just think that and I'm kind of on that train where I know something's fucky, and
Yeah.
I know there's people behind the scenes that, did stuff. I am kind of a second shooter guy. I think that they did set him up as a patsy. With it, and I think the evidence that speaks to that is all the CIA surveillance for like half a decade on him. It'd be really, and they had that fucking, they had Dealey Plaza fucking locked down. Somebody had to willfully miss that,
Right.
in my opinion, and um, I think that they were leaving him out there in the cold as a convenient excuse, as a patsy, and they had a backup plan in case he missed. And
You
I
know,
think after that first shot, they're like, fucking initiate Bravo
yeah.
plan,
Yeah. Now that's it, there are so many similarities that can be drawn to Charlie Kirk.
Right.
And I
Which I
just,
think is the same kind of thing.
yep. And, you look at um, the similarities, obviously, what you just said about, this setting somebody up as a patsy, and he still may have pulled the trigger, but whatever,
Right. Yeah.
But you think of the Jack Ruby thing that doesn't make sense. That reminds me of the old dude that was in the crowd
The
after
umbrella
Charlie
guy?
Kirk was
Umbrella
shot
Man?
for
Or
Charlie Kirk.
Oh, I was talking about JFK
Yeah, yeah.
still.
The old dude in the
Yes.
Charlie Kirk front who's like, "It was me, I shot him," and he's acting like,
Yeah.
shoot me."
Fucking
What the
weird,
hell?
dude. Yeah.
And he was at another oh he was at another
It was another rally, wasn't it? Wasn't he at a
no,
different rally?
he was at another event that has conspiracies around it. I can't remember which one.
Was that the one where he was at the Vegas shooting?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have heard that. Super fucking
And you're
weird.
like, this is dude is like central casting. This is fucked up.
Is he just like the resident crazy guy that the CIA just like dumps at the fucking scene of weird shit that's
Right.
gonna go down? That one, I do not have that on my list.
Oh my
We have
God.
got to do the Vegas shooting.
Yeah. We actually have, I mean, we have a source that was there.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy. I mean, a lot of people, 3 degrees of separation, right? They know somebody that knows
Yeah.
somebody. We definitely actually know somebody that
Yeah.
was there. And Ian Carroll,
Hmm.
you follow Ian Carroll,
Yeah.
right? Anybody that watches this that doesn't, you absolutely should immediately follow Ian Carroll. He's
I tell you
brilliant.
what, whether it, this is where, people get so, oh, well, he leans towards this side, so I don't listen to him. Put your baggage aside. This dude, he can find information.
Yeah,
He's
he's
really
great
good
at digging.
digger. Yeah.
I don't even because I follow people that are leftist, people that are rightist, people that are straight down the middle, kind of like I'm pretty down the middle on most stuff.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what your politics are, man. I
No.
really don't. I've never cared. It's not gonna affect who I'm friends with, who my family is, who I love, who I care about. It just doesn't matter to me, and that is, uh, you know, I, and it's kind of that's what it was like when JFK was president, right?
Yeah.
One thing I'm positive JFK did not get killed for was that he was a Democrat.
Right. Yeah.
100% positive. Whereas today, that may not necessarily be the case. Somebody may get killed because they're a Democrat or a Republican.
You
It's
know,
really sad.
it is. It's crazy, and I think that's by design also.
Yeah.
But we talked about this JFK episode's been on our list, and early on, something that opinion we both shared was to do our best to avoid politics because there's enough political bullshit on the internet, and
Right.
I think a lot of people just need to unplug and touch grass.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is unavoidable, in my opinion. If you're gonna have a podcast talking about conspiracies, you're going to
Well, politics always
government
play
and
a
politics
role.
are gonna be in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, for both of us, I know like if you were going to put a label on it, yeah, you and I would both be very much right in the center.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh, you know, as- I voted for both parties
Yeah.
in local, state, federal elections. I have voted for more than two parties, actually. I vote based on the candidate and
Yeah.
whether I like them and their ideas. And I think that's the way that it was originally designed to be.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you,
Yeah. Then you get the people who are, I can't think of the term, but say you're a Democrat, and it's like you always vote party ticket.
yeah,
Control the House. It's like
yeah.
to me that's the backwards way of looking at it. I understand the concept and the idea.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. But, if everybody would stick to the golden rule of, you vote for people, vote onto others, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
People that have your best interest.
You're going to end up with a group of Democrats and Republicans and independents who are representing the world more appropriately.
Exactly. Yeah, they're representing their district more appropriately. The people that make up their voting block, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, do parties even matter anymore? I struggle with that too. Like, I am not as politically involved as I used to be. Granted, I used to be very into politics. Just learning about it. I just loved it when I was younger. Not anymore. But I still try to stay informed, right? But you see, like, what happened after the Civil Rights Act was passed. It was like 68. The South used to be Democrat. 100% of the time, every southern state voted Democrat, basically every election, right?
Yeah.
It completely flipped after that passed because of, it's just, are the parties even the same thing that they were 10 years ago?
No.
Like, they can't be,
For
right?
sure they're not. And that's why, like, you're right. I don't think the party matters. It's the people in the party.
Exactly.
And because if you were to, the Democrats of the 80s or 90s are polar opposites of what they are now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the same is for Republicans.
Even people that are currently in office.
Correct.
It's crazy. You see, like, people that'll do these, like, stitched together montages of shit that, like, who's the current minority in the Senate?
Hakeem
Chuck
Jeffrey?
Schumer.
Oh,
Chuck
Schumer.
The minority, sorry.
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer, you go to what he said about immigration in the 90s
I know.
is the exact same talking point that supposed far right hardcore Republicans are taking now, where it's like, hey, we don't care if you want to come here illegally, but if you come here illegally, we're going to grab you and we're going to ship you back.
That
There's
was a big part of Bill Clinton's deal as
Yes.
well.
Yeah. And that was when I think there was still party animosity, but there was still some shit that we all agreed on, right? It's totally off topic, but I think the flock cameras and the AI, that's going to be the next like 80-20 or 90-10 issue where
Yeah.
the parties will be forced to act on some level of control for
Yeah.
those, because it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, or rich in our sense, like a millionaire, right? Not like uber rich, or you're poor or you're middle class or whatever. Nobody wants flock cameras on every corner.
Hmm.
Nobody wants mass surveillance all the time, right? You're going to be hard pressed to find even 1 in 10 general Americans that's going to be pro either of those things.
I think you're right. I think the flock cameras and data centers are going to, I think those are the two greatest opportunities to have people from both parties unite on issues.
Well, you're
I
seeing
hope.
it now locally,
Yeah.
all over the country.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like, I tell you, one of the greatest things. I don't know if it's the greatest thing, but I find a lot of entertainment in watching these people who create videos, and they it's very intentional the way they're speaking, and it's so they don't get banned off of their TikTok stream or whatever.
Yeah, or
call it.
YouTube doesn't censor their shit or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're like, just letting you know, there are not 2 grams of gold in a flock camera, and there's
Yes.
and you
And, like,
can't
2
put
pounds of copper.
you can't put lasers at them. It'll ruin them. You should not.
Yeah,
I think those are hilarious.
that is super funny. And
Yeah.
it is wild that we're at that point
Yeah.
to me. Like I saw a comment on, there was a, flock cameras, videos are all over the place, people commenting on them and everything. I saw one recently where there was a comment on it where they were talking about same thing, how there's all this stuff in the cameras like copper, gold, or whatever. But the guy was like, he's like, it's got to be the first rollout ever by any corporation where it went from no flock cameras to apparently they had the most perfect rollout of any product in human history, and now there's like 8 trillion of them everywhere.
Nobody knew.
And nobody knew. How did they? That had to be intentional.
Do you
right?
remember when you and I went down to your storage unit
Yeah.
and there was a police officer installing a camera?
Yes.
Is that it? I wonder if that's
So I have looked and it's not. That is a
Okay,
private
okay.
security camera.
Okay.
But, they
I
are.
have been thinking about that ever since I started hearing
Yeah.
about flock cameras.
Well, they are looking at putting some in town, and we won't say where we live, but
Yeah.
they are looking at putting some. They're not going to be town cameras; they'll be county cameras, but just because of where the highways are.
Yeah.
But the thing that's freaky about those is like where they're putting them. So you see, we'll do a full episode on this at some point,
Yeah.
but you see, like people are like, oh yeah, they're just to like track vehicles for stolen cars and Amber Alerts and whatever. And then they'll have one that's like in a fucking park on a walking path that like
Right.
points at the trees. Like, what the fuck is this for?
Yeah.
It kind of shows that it's a bold-faced lie, at least part of what they're saying.
Right.
Like
Well,
it may also do those things, but that's
Yeah.
not all you.
Yeah, of course they're going to talk about all of the positive things they're going to use it for. You
Right.
know.
Which there is some.
Sure.
Inarguably, they serve a benefit for, stopping crime.
Yeah, that's like the Patriot Act. There's good that came from it, but
Right.
there's a point where it's way too much.
Yeah. Wasn't it Thomas Jefferson that said, it was one of the founding fathers said, if it's what's the exact quote? It's if you would rather have
Oh, I know exactly. what
I
you're
can't think-
thinking of. It's
if you would give up your freedom
Freedom.
to attain more security, then you deserve neither freedom nor security.
yeah, that's pretty darn close. Yeah.
And it's basically saying like even they back then knew that there would be people that would try to prey on the American people that would say, hey, we'll give you more security, you'll be more safe, cops everywhere, whatever, militarized government, but you're not going to have the same freedoms that you have now.
How many times do you think in like this all follows, to me, this follows like you just said, our founding fathers went through this. And
Right.
It's for the same reasons. How many times do you think in the history of civilization have we just gone around this circle
Yeah.
of control?
I mean, how many are we the 7th civilization?
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about that before, but
Yeah.
I think it's inevitable in
Yeah.
human nature. I
Yeah,
think
you're probably right.
every time you get a group of people together and they create a society, there's always going to be the goal of stopping crime, right? You're trying to keep a stable order. And there's a balancing act between letting people have the freedoms that are given by God and that they deserve as human beings, and also having enough control where there isn't just rampant crime.
Right.
And I feel like for the last up until the last like 10 years, well, really up until the Patriot Act, we had done a very good job of that.
I agree.
We had a good amount of control. We had a pretty ordered society, but we didn't have cameras everywhere. We didn't have people getting surveilled constantly. And now, really, since September 11th, it's gotten super bad. It's very depressing.
Yeah. I mean, you think about like, certain things, and, you talk about your God-given rights, and, like you could list, the freedom of speech and blah, blah, blah. And you could go down of what a God-given right is. But when you start using your common sense and you start thinking of, I have to get a license to go catch a fish to eat, that's crazy.
Really dumb, right?
It's absurd.
I get really unrealistically angry about seatbelt laws. They fucking make me irate. I wear my seatbelt.
When you pass 15 motorcycles with no helmets on, but you have to wear a seatbelt, doesn't make any sense.
And I'm trying to explain this to somebody, and usually people, and this is the general idea, is people are like, well, it keeps you safe. I'm like, that's not the fucking government's business.
That's right.
It's not in their interest to protect me. It's in my interest to protect me. You protect the country, right?
It's in the insurance company's interest.
Correct. Yeah. That is not in their purview whatsoever. They have no right to legislate that at all. And it very deeply bothers me. And I wear my seatbelt.
Right.
Like 99% of the time I wear my seatbelt. If I'm going like 2 blocks, I won't. But
if it hadn't been a thing, would you wear it? Do you think? I know.
Well,
I wouldn't. If there was no law, I've had a lot of seatbelt tickets in my, and now I wear it all the time.
Because you don't want to get a ticket, right?
Yeah, out of habit.
Yeah.
But for that exact reason, a lot of my trips are, down to the market,
right?
Over to your place, over to my mom and dad's, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I would never wear it.
I say like in town, a lot of times I don't. If I'm going on a cross country road trip where I could get hit by a semi at 70 miles an hour, then yeah, I do.
If it gives you that feeling of security, then it's absolutely worth it.
Well, I think it's a tool, right? There's a time and a place for it. If I'm not going to drive over 25 miles an hour, I'm not going to wear one because it ain't going to do fucking anything for me.
But the assholes that want to argue everything will say, statistically, most of the injuries happen less than 40 miles an hour, blah, 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 blah. It's still your choice. It should be anyways.
My fucking giant truck hitting anything at 25 miles an hour, it'll dent the bumper. Like,
right.
It just makes me mad. But, all right, back to JFK. We talked about the mafia. We talked about the CIA a little bit. We really should talk about 2 more things for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The Grassy Knoll theory, multiple shooters, which I think ties in with the CIA. And we definitely want to talk about potential Soviet/KGB involvement. Do you have any opinions on the multiple shooters theory? Because I think what I said, and I still stand by this, is that I think that is part of the CIA involvement. I think they had a plan B. And I think that was the guy in the Grassy Knoll, because there's tons of eyewitnesses that were there that said they all, when it happened live, thought the shots came from the Grassy Knoll, at least 2 of the 3.
So based on a lot of my stuff does come from actually, I know it sounds crazy, but like the JFK movie, and not just the movie, but it definitely made me look at stuff. And so I think the Grassy Knoll second gunman I think if you were to present that today in a court of law, it might have some legs.
Yeah.
You had eyewitnesses, you had the movement of his head.
Yeah.
Like going whatever direction it was from there going back. You had like recorded acoustic samples.
Yeah, and that was the evidence they used in that later hearing that was in like the late 70s.
Yeah,
we talked about. That was what they used, and somebody tried to discredit it, but I honestly think it's just trying to muddy the waters. Like, I don't know how you could discredit an acoustic sample other than just saying, no, that's not real.
Right.
But yeah, I think there was definitely a second shooter on the Grassy Knoll. And the thing about a lot of these theories is they can, so say, you and I both agree there was a second shooter.
Yeah.
You can fit that into every other fucking theory.
Exactly.
It could be a mob guy. It could be Cuba, Castro. It could be the
Soviet. Absolutely.
Right. So it's, even if you are sure Like if we found factual evidence there was a second shooter on the grassy knoll, it still doesn't narrow down what theory it actually is about the why and the who. And that's the tricky part about this is there's so many tentacles of the
I know.
JFK thing that just go down, and even if you solve one mystery, it doesn't solve the whole mystery.
As far as the Soviet one, just my opinion, I think I'm less likely to believe that connection directly, anyways, because I think that one, um, they were like the number one enemy of everybody, and that was very convenient
Very convenient,
to
yeah.
point a finger at them. And so, yeah, I think it's the usual suspect type of thing. What's that show called? I can't remember now, but so yeah, I don't know. I think so. What are the connections with KGB?
Well, the Cuba
Cuban Missile
thing,
Crisis.
yeah. Well, in the Bay of Pigs, so obviously
Yeah,
Castro and the Cubans were working with the Soviets, right? Because they were communist. So I think the general theory is that Castro and the KGB worked together to kind of take JFK out as punishment for the Bay of Pigs, which it's kind of stupid because he was against that.
yeah,
Like Kennedy was like the only one in the government that didn't want to provide air support for the Bay
right.
of Pigs, which is why it failed because they didn't give the CIA air support. And that's why the CIA was mad at JFK. So I don't know if that one has legs for me.
I was just looking on some of my notes, and I was looking at the connections, and for KGB and all that stuff. I mean, almost all the evidence is only suspicion based, other than I forgot about this. Oswald had Mexico City contacts,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
so
And I think he was meeting at the Soviet and Cuban embassies
yeah.
in Mexico City, is what the direct connection was.
It even says here this was a very of the day that was one of the more dominant theories, but it's like the almost one of the least common conspiracies
Well, you
currently.
think about 1960s
Yeah,
Cold War. I
right.
mean, every person's going to be like, oh, it was the Soviets.
Yeah, of course.
Just because, you got Joseph McCarthy, you got all, the Red Scare and everything. Like, it's going to be everybody's first thing. Your arch nemesis probably killed your president,
Yeah,
right? Just like during the War on Terror, the easy suspect was, anybody wearing a turban.
yeah.
Like, it was, and there's tons of
Who
good
who
people
who would
in
that
those
be
countries.
today for America?
That's a great question. I don't know if we have one anymore. I think that's part of the problem.
I think if you were to buy what our government was selling us, it would be Iran.
Yeah, which yeah.
I don't know if that's reality or not. I just don't know.
Well, the thing is, like, I want the people of Iran, the real people, the Persians, to be free. I
Right.
think everybody agrees with that. Iran is not a mortal threat to the United States of America,
I agree.
and that's the problem. Is like they want to sell it as that they are not that. Um, there's no way Iran would ever try to nuke us. It's suicide.
Yeah.
There's no reason why they would do that. They're just trying to defend themselves in the same way that North Korea does, right? Like, we don't mess with North Korea anymore because they attain nuclear weapons, right?
Yeah.
I believe that's all that Iran wants. I'm not saying Iran's not a threat on a regional scale to Israel or their neighbors or whatever. Like, they obviously are a religious extremist regime, so it's not ideal. We're like thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
So it's kind of dumb for them to try to sell us that there are mortal enemies.
Yeah.
Um,
But they do.
they do. Yeah, I mean, it was the same thing they tried with Afghanistan, the
Mhm.
Taliban, and the war on terror. They really wanted the war on terror to be our like next Cold War, right? And they succeeded for like 10 years. And
Yeah.
then people were like, "Hey, like we don't need to do this anymore. We did the thing. We got, we killed
We
Osama bin
found we
Laden."
found
Like,
the weapons of mass destruction. Oh, maybe not.
yeah, so I don't know anymore. That's a really good question. I don't know who our mortal enemy is anymore. And I think that's kind of one of the problems that like the deep state or the government has is like we function better as a society when we have an enemy. And I don't really think we have one anymore that's like credible.
I know.
China, maybe, I guess.
It's a tricky question to try to answer, honestly.
Yeah. There's no
Because
direct corollary to what the Soviets were like back then that we
right,
have,
right. No.
Because China is, they're like kind of like corporatist capitalist communist, like they still have some state-owned stuff, but
Right.
it's not like it was with the Soviets.
Right.
um but like they are nowhere near as confrontational as the Soviets and the United States were back then, so it's not a direct corollary.
Have you seen the supposed videos that Iran has been putting out?
I have not. I've heard about them, but
The
I have not seen
Lego
them.
ones?
I have not seen the Lego ones. No, that's news to me.
Dude,
What is it?
they're fucking hilarious.
What? So what? Like, what's the gist? Give me the rundown.
I'm trying to think of the most recent one. Oh, yeah. This will come off maybe a little bit like dark because it was after what's his face who just died? Lindsey Graham.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously anybody dying is terrible. And quite honestly, I don't know if I liked or disliked Lindsey Graham. I have no idea.
One of the few people that wasn't owned by corporate interests. When he
And,
died,
and
his net worth was like $1 million.
yeah, well,
So kind of
that's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, I will
Um,
give him that.
but yeah, they supposedly they made a video. Now, granted, that's the rumor on the internet. I don't know if they actually made it or not, but somebody is trying to push credit on Iran for making all these Lego videos.
Okay.
And it's basically, it shows him over like in Ukraine because he was just over in Ukraine.
Yeah.
It shows him in a household and he's like holding a little kid and somebody opens the door and it's like dark and there's a dark figure standing there.
Yeah.
And then he like freaks out and dies. And then it shows the Lego figure, the murderer or whatever.
Yeah.
And it has Lindsey Graham's name and he like crosses it off or checks it.
Yeah.
And it says underneath it Laura, and everybody
Like Laura
speculates Laura
Loomer.
Loomer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of like the gist of the video.
Crazy.
But
man.
it's so yeah, a video about somebody being murdered is not funny.
No.
But to put anything
It's
in a
fucking
Lego,
Legos, man.
you put it in a Lego
Like,
format,
come
it's
on.
fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I don't understand why they would do that. But
Yeah, I don't, and there's other people who are saying, no, 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 they're not doing it
we
right
are.
now. No, they're thinking Israel because Israel and Iran are,
Oh,
it's
because
such a
they're
hot
arguing.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that too. It's hard.
And I could see it being us as well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think they're all possible.
Yeah.
It's people. One of the issues we have as regular citizens with understanding geopolitics today is we look at everything through the lens of the nation state.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at what is the United States' best interest in helping Israel to defeat Iran, or whatever, and that's how all people look at all these issues, right? But you're missing a huge part of the picture that there is corporate interests that are not bound to any nationality.
Yeah.
And they have their own interests, right? And a lot of times they're more powerful than the government.
Right.
So you'll never be able to understand the full picture without taking into account, quasi political organizations like the WEF and all these intranational um, groups and everything, and then corporate interests who will oftentimes have their own private militaries, private spy. You look at a company like Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
They basically have their own CIA. I mean, they have private, intelligence and security within their own company.
I mean, they're like they're like a para governmental organization.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They're so
essentially,
closely
right.
connected.
It's crazy. There's so much more to it than there was when JFK got assassinated.
Yeah.
And it makes talking about anything so tricky because the average American doesn't know about any of that.
Well, and even if you know about this stuff or have an inkling, it's still very hard to like put it all together. You know what I mean? Like as we sit here and talk about it, like the amount of stuff that we made, there's like an endless amount of information that we still don't know.
Right.
And we'll never know. And even if we did know, probably wouldn't understand.
Right. Or wouldn't know the right context or the motive
Yeah.
or whatever. You only ever get bits and pieces. And that's like, I think it's super cool that our current government has been doing these document releases, right? Like they've got a group that's working on the JFK thing again. They got a group working on, UFOs, all this stuff. That's awesome. They're throwing us a bone, whatever. But when they release these documents, you don't ever get the full context.
I know.
Because the context documents got fucking burned 50 years ago.
Well, and even if so, the context to somebody reading it now versus 50 years ago,
right?
It's been lost,
Yeah. It's like when people do revisionist history on like McCarthyism. People are like, "Oh, Joseph McCarthy was such an idiot." Yeah, he wasn't at the time.
Yes.
Like it was for the moment, it made sense, right? People were terrified of the Russians or Soviets. So you have to take everything in the historical context that it happened in, and like that's why it doesn't surprise me that at the time everybody assumed it was the Soviets.
Right.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a possibility. There's also two more theories, and I want to talk about the last one, but kind of the catch-all theory is that it was all these groups working together. It was a quasi, not necessarily governmental, just like the Cubans were mad at JFK, the Russians or the Soviets were mad at JFK, the CIA was mad at JFK, the mafia was mad at JFK, so they all kind of like played a role, right? I think that's a really convenient,
Yeah.
so I don't put a lot of stock into that because when you include more and more people, it becomes riskier and riskier that somebody's going to slip up and say something.
Yeah. And how do you get that many people? I mean, it's hard enough within one organization to get clear communication.
Yeah.
How would you do that with multilingual?
Yeah, I don't
You know,
know.
I mean, it's just, I don't find that one
I don't
plausible.
I don't think it's super plausible. And then the last one that we can wrap this up on is Lyndon B. Johnson.
So I think that might be one of the more believable ones.
It's hard to say. There's no direct evidence for it, but like motive wise, when we talk about
Yeah.
motive,
I was going to say,
yeah.
let me revise that. I think he's attached to whichever one did it. I think he probably had insight.
Or he knew about it
Yes,
and
yeah.
like tacitly let it happen.
Yeah, I don't think he planned it. Potentially, I wouldn't think that, but I think he understood a plan was being put together. I feel like he was.
Yeah,
And he
or
knew.
at the very least, like had some inkling that there was danger for him.
Right.
I agree with that too.
Yeah.
And but I mean, he was from Texas, had major interest with the oil companies, who JFK was not necessarily like pro oil, not as much as other, presidents were or people were at the time. JFK was an outsider. He was a Catholic. He was not connected to the same establishment people as LBJ was. Um, there's a lot of reasons why LBJ selfishly would want JFK gone.
Yeah.
Um, and the whole story about him being on the plane back home with JFK's body and Jackie Kennedy and taking the oath on the plane while Jackie's like crying like 3 seats away. God, it's crazy.
That is.
Put yourself in that fucking position.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
I mean, you
that's,
can't blame it. He had to do it, but like that's dirty.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe move it to the back of the plane and let
Let her mourn her husband that just got his head blown off like fucking 20 minutes before.
Shit's crazy. That's the other thing I would say is that woman probably knows the Zapruder film.
Yeah.
She would know for sure.
For sure.
Sitting right next to her husband.
It's great. Well, and you hear stories about like Bobby Kennedy, like RFK,
Yeah.
where he's like, he hasn't said it publicly, but supposedly behind closed doors, he's like, yeah, the fucking CIA did it. Like,
Yeah.
I know the CIA did it, right? Did you ever hear about the story of the local Dallas Police Department wanted to do an autopsy before they would let JFK's body go, and JFK's like family and entourage like got into a fist fight with the local PD and like basically demanded to take the body. Like
I
they
did
weren't going to
not
let
hear
him
that.
fly away.
Wow. I have not heard
Yeah,
that.
there
That's
was
crazy.
there was like a fucking royal rumble where they were like almost coming to blows over letting them leave. They're like, he's the president of the United States. We're fucking going. Like,
It makes you wonder what was the family's motive for fighting back so hard at an autopsy? Was it
it's tough.
emotional, or was it they knew there was some fucking weird shit going on and they didn't want it to go pushed any further?
Well, I think so if you're somebody who has this whole plan put in place, like whoever did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a great chance you could have the local mortician, the local medical examiner paid off prior, and you're going to know when they do that autopsy the result that you want them to get, right?
Yeah.
So I think that might be, I think the family immediately had suspicions, obviously.
Yeah.
They still do. I mean, they talk about it openly every now and then. So, I mean, that would be one possible explanation.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy. Yeah, I had not heard that one.
That's an interesting little tidbit. There's a lot of stuff like that with this where it's like not directly related to who did it, who done it, the motive, or whatever. But there's just like weird shit that surrounds this.
An octopus of things like, conspiracies of their own that are tied to this one.
Right. And then, yeah, the other one that kind of goes off Cuba, I forgot to mention this. We talked about it a little bit, but the anti-Castro Cuban exiles, so the reason that they supposedly were wanting to assassinate JFK, and that they were involved in Watergate later on too, was because they were mad at JFK that he did not provide the air support for the Bay of Pigs,
Yeah.
because they wanted the government to get overthrown. So there was another group that were mad at JFK. And really, the common thread in this whole story is that everybody fucking hated JFK except for the people.
Yeah, right.
Every establishment group everywhere, every fucking law enforcement agency, everyone except normal Americans did not like JFK. And that's why he died.
You think there's any other president in history who's similar to that?
Andrew Jackson, I think, would be the closest.
I gotta say, somebody who is probably, and I don't know if it's true or not, obviously, but Donald Trump, at least in his first term, everybody establishment despised him. I wouldn't say that he was super popular with the people, maybe enough to be elected, but
Yeah.
there are some similarities there where he's an outsider, you know. But yeah, Andrew Jackson's probably a lot closer.
Well, you know, his quarrel was with the Fed. His quarrel was with basically the establishment. Like, there wasn't like a CIA at the time, but you know, the deep state or whatever that was back then, like, he was not for that.
Yeah,
So,
right.
But I think, and do you have anything else? Otherwise, I think we've done a pretty good job of digging through all this shit.
No, I was gonna say before we get off, we should, you know, we can let the listeners and viewers, you know, give them a little peek into pretty soon we're going to be changing studios.
Yeah, so we haven't talked, we kind of mentioned it before. I think
Mhm.
we haven't done a real talk about this, but if you guys haven't noticed, we're doing this in an upstairs office, and it's like 85 degrees up here right now, and it's the middle of the summer, so we're getting hot. We're moving it over to my place. I'm building a studio in my basement, so it's going to be specifically for podcasting. We're going to have a permanent setup down there. It's going to be, you know, soundproofed way better. It'll be really nice when it's done. We're working on it now. I
And
had,
comfortable chairs.
yeah, really comfortable
Like
chairs.
these are okay for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, dude, after, like, I think I've told you this before, but it's just the way that these make me sit to get into the microphone. I have to lean so far forward, and I have no back support.
I wonder if these, you know, we may have to look at different mics or just go with the shirt mics or something if we're gonna be whatever sitting on a lazy boy.
Well,
Or
these
couch
do
or something.
move too, so we
Yeah,
could probably set them up where they'd be all right, or just loosen them so we can kind of move them around. But we'll figure it out. But we just wanted to let you guys know. And yeah, sorry about the break. Like we talked about at the beginning, like, just got busy. You know, we finished season 1 and we're like, you know, I really want to do the new season in the new studio. But then a couple weeks went by and we're like, fuck, we really, you know, the studio's not done yet. We really want to put an episode out. So we're like, let's just do another
Yeah.
one. We'll get over there whenever we get over there because we missed it. So
Yeah, be a few weeks probably, I'm sure.
yeah, we got the rooms I finished the room now, but now we're just getting the studio aspect of it set up and getting new furniture. So yeah, within the next month, I would say we'll be over there. But that's all I got for you guys today. Really appreciate everything. And if you can check us out on Facebook, or not Facebook, sorry, Twitter. I got a YouTube account. We're gonna also be starting out pretty soon a YouTube Shorts, where we're gonna do some different like stitch together videos and stuff like that. So we're working on that right now as well. And I think that's been more your thing. But that's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Band of shadows is a heavy